What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my latest video. This is my review for the 2023 film Jawan. So Jawan is a film that I had no clue even existed until about a couple weeks ago. See, what happened was I was scrolling through the AMC app and I was looking at the following weeks, and I saw that this film called Jawan was playing in IMAX, which is odd because a lot of times, when I say a lot of times, 99.9% of the time, there aren't international films that are in IMAX or Dolby, at least in theaters near me. So to see an international film that was going to be in IMAX, I was very happy, even though I didn't even know what this film was about. So I said immediately, I'm going to watch this film. And I gotta say, I am so glad that I did. I'm so glad I took advantage of this rare opportunity because J1 is it's such an entertaining film. I had a blast watching this. I highly recommend going into this knowing as little as possible the way I did, because I feel like that's how the director intends it. By all means, there is a premise, and I'll give you guys the premise because I know some people do want to know a little bit going into the film. So I will say the official IMDb premise, which is this. It's a high-octane action thriller about a man who goes on an emotional journey trying to rectify the wrongs of society. Now, I will say this. Yes, it is an action thriller, for sure. But this is actually a film that combines many different genres. It combines also romance, combines heist, social drama, musical, so many different genres, but the storytelling is so strong and you can't help but really get on board with the story because of not only the directing, but also the acting. The acting is really, really good. You can tell that everyone involved really cares about not only their characters, but just getting these themes and messages across so strongly. And I will say this, I liked how very, very early on, as a film goer, you are put in the middle of two sides and you can't help but see both viewpoints. And at the same time, as the course of the film, you start to see one side more so, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be on this person's side. Okay, that's awesome. It's really, really well done. I really liked how they play around with the morally gray, areas of life. I think that that's something that was wonderfully done. Really, really strong directing. The director is Atlee, and I do need to check out this director's, other work because he is really, really good at directing. He has an eye, and it's very interesting to see how he directs the action scenes in particular, because I would say the best way of describing the action scenes is that it's a mix of like Zack Snyder style action with like Tony Scott style directing, and then at the same time a dash here and there of like the Raid films. And I mean that in the best way possible, because I feel like you hear a lot of times people say like, oh, this movie reminds you a lot of like the 80s, and a lot of times it's just like it doesn't really do anything for me. And I will say this also, there's also a lot of times where I'll criticize like the Fast and Furious movies, but similar to 80s movies and Fast and Furious movies, this movie showcases that you can do over the top and do it so well if everyone is on board. And not only that, but also the filmmaking is excellent. I mean, that's just it. A lot of times when films are vibing off the 80s, the filmmaking just isn't that interesting. And the same with the Fast and Furious movies. You look at those movies just in general, I get it that some people like those movies, but the filmmaking is just not good. Here, Jawan has really, really good filmmaking. I absolutely loved, in particular, the score. And one thing that really stood out about the score is not only does it sound great, but it actually is at the forefront of the sound mixing. And I say this because a lot of times in American action films, you'll have it where these days, I don't know why they do this, but you'll have it where the score is in the very, very back track and the actual sounds are at the forefront. So it's like, why would you hire a composer if all they're going to do is have background noise and nothing more? So I really like how a film like this really emphasizes the importance of score. What also helps is that the visuals are outstanding. I love the cinematography. It's very stylish. Visual effects are also mostly good. I will say there were couple instances here or there where I wasn't totally convinced by the visual effects, and it did take me out a bit. But overall, I mostly liked the visual effects. I liked the sound mixing combined with the score, and I also thought that the action scenes were quite thrilling. I also really liked the editing style. There's a lot of times movies are just too long, and they feel their length. Here, at 2 hours and 49 minutes, I was kind of worried going into it, but right away I knew that I was in good hands because this film starts right off and you just can't help but get caught up with all these characters. And I wasn't bored for a second of this film, and that's pretty impressive. But again, Strong directing, strong acting, just overall. But I will say this, as much as I like the acting, I will say that the dialogue, some people might not be able to vibe with, because there is at times, not all the time, but at times there is like a cheeky nature to it. And then at other times, the dialogue is very serious. Sometimes I feel like some people might think that there are some tonal shifts that might not work. For me, I didn't have that issue because, again, I was on board with this emotional journey of the characters. And I also thought that, yes, sometimes the musical numbers, they were quote unquote random, but I did think that overall they did work with serving the bigger purpose of these characters and their journey. So in terms of negatives, I will say that I know I mentioned a couple of things of the visual effects, but for the most part, those are great. But there was one thing that did take me out for a minute, and that is that there is a scene of nudity. And it's not that there was a scene of nudity, it was the fact that the scene has it where someone gets their clothes taken off, and it's pixelated. Now, I personally think that if you want to showcase that someone, got their clothes taken off and you don't want to showcase the nudity, then just cut to another scene so that way we get it. It's like, okay, so it's implied, or just showcase it all. So it's like it should be one or the other, but here they were trying to have their cake and eat it, so to speak, because they wanted to showcase it, but they also wanted it to be pixelated. So it felt very odd. Like when I think of pixelated nudity, I think of like something on like TV, not a film. So it just felt very odd. I'm sure that there's a reason as to why they did it. I'm very curious as to why, but for that brief minute, I was taken out a bit. But again, who knows? Maybe there's a reason behind that I'm just ignorant towards. So I'm all ears though. But overall, Jawan, I really like this film. It's a film that, again, it combines many different genres seamlessly. So I really enjoyed this film. I'm filming this in September, and definitely one of my favorite films of the year so far. And if you do get a chance to see this in theaters, take advantage of that. This is a film that is meant to be seen on the big screen, and I would highly recommend Jawan. That's why for me, I personally will be giving it a... But yeah, guys, Jawan, did you like it? Did you not? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below on your personal thoughts. And guys, as always, thank you very much for watching with the subscription, notification bell. Follow me down Letterboxd, and I will catch you guys later.